When we return to Americana on Tour, we'll meet with Pete Krieg, aeronaut extraordinaire, right after this commercial message. Joining us on the show today, Pete Krieg of Indianapolis, aeronaut extraordinaire, has an unusual hot air balloon exhibition. Pete, can you tell us a little more about what you do that's special?
Dan, we are in Cullom, Illinois, a small community of 550 people out on the Illinois prairie that has been having a balloon ascension, they think, every year since 1891. Most of the balloon ascensions that they have had in the late 1800s and early 1900s and even up to the 1960s were smoke balloon ascensions, which is what I'm going to do today. Most of your viewers will be familiar with a modern hot air balloon which uses a colorful envelope made out of nylon or polyester with many colors and with baskets and with burners and instruments and all kinds of fancy gadgets. And that's the type of balloon I flew here when I first came here in 1971, I believe. Then as a bicentennial project, in 1976, I built and flew for the first time this balloon that you see behind you here, this dirty, smoke-filled, or it will be smoke-filled, hopefully, cotton smoke balloon. The smoke balloon was a uniquely carnival daredevil stunt act practiced all the way from the early 1800s until about the 1960s or so. The last man in the world to do it was Captain Eddie Allen from Batavia, New York, and he retired in 1976. That's when I took up smoke ballooning, built my equipment, and did one of my first flights here in Cullom. Not the first, but one of the first. And I've been doing smoke balloon flights here ever since. The smoke balloon was taken to county fairs by practitioners, and there were probably 50 to 100 of them in America and a few in Europe. They would arrive, the horse and wagon, a balloon, a trapeze bar, and a parachute and some ropes. And the balloon had no, and has no, mine has no basket, no burners, no controls, no instruments, no vents, no tanks, no way to control it other than we stake it to the ground, and we'll show you the release mechanism here in a circle of stakes, which I think that you have pictures of. And we put a pole up inside, build a fire inside of it, or put a burner in it, get it hot, and then when it's ready to go, I ride up on it with a harness and my parachute after somebody cuts it loose, and it jerks me up off the ground to someplace between 1,000 and 3,000 feet. And then I parachute off. The balloon turns over and disgorges its belly full of black smoke into the sky, and so then I float down on it. And as I mentioned, I did it as a bicentennial project. 1976 when I had my first flight, and in order to preserve the art of it, it was art that was going to be completely forgotten and lost, and so I did it in order to preserve the art, and that's why you see it here today. My balloon and the equipment I use is as traditional as it can be within the interests of safety. The old smoke balloonists built their own parachutes, which were not steerable. I jumped a non-steerable parachute the first time, and with all the power lines and the buildings around, I opted to go for a steerable parachute, so I do have a steerable factory-made parachute. The packing system and all the rest of the equipment that I use is equipment that I built myself. Most of the old smoke balloonists used parachutes. As I mentioned before, my parachute is a fairly modern one, but it's packed the old way. All of them packed the parachutes on either bicycle wheels or car steering wheels or some round object. Normally it was car steering wheels or bicycle wheels, and that's what I've got here. My system that I connect to is right here. The device, the parachute is inside here all packed up. This part hooks to the balloon. This part here is what I fasten to myself. Now, in the old days, the smoke balloonist would have this already hooked onto the balloon. This part here would be hooked onto the balloon. The parachute would be packed on his wheel. There would be ropes coming off here, and it would go down about this far to a wooden trapeze bar. The gentleman that's with me here today, father was a smoke balloonist, Mr. Woodall from Dayton, Ohio, and his father used a trapeze bar down here. So the old-time guys would climb on the trapeze bar and put a wrist lock on, so if they slipped off the bar, they would not fall completely off the balloon, and that's how they went up. Nowadays, the regulations are, and they are good regulations, that the parachutist making an intentional jump wear a reserve parachute. The old guys didn't do that. So my reserve parachute is here. It goes on a pack, and I wear a harness, and this is a standard military harness, which is even old-fashioned compared to the harnesses that the modern parachutists wear. And this harness allows me to not only fasten my main parachute on it, but also the reserve parachute. As I said, this part hooks onto the ropes onto the bottom of the balloon here. This cover then stays with the balloon itself. The release mechanism is right here, is under here, and when this fastens onto the cover, when I release this, that releases the cover and the bicycle ring, and falls out along with this part of it, which is hooked onto my harness, and I fall off the balloon. That's how it works. I started wearing this altimeter from day one so I could judge how high I was, and you set it for the ground level. This is a standard parachutist altimeter. You wear it on your wrist, and it tells me how high I am before I jump, just to give me a rough idea of what state I'm in as we go up. And this altimeter, the balloon will ascend, to start out with maybe 1,500 feet a minute when it really gets started. So in a minute's time, hopefully, I'm up to this position or very close to it.
Pete, smoke ballooning is an extremely dangerous stunt. Why do you personally do it?
When they first came out with the modern balloons, back in the very early 60s, they were underpowered, Dan. They were dangerous to fly. They didn't vent well, they didn't go up well, they didn't fill well, and it was a real challenge to fly a modern balloon, or what was then modern, which now isn't modern. At that time, there were 50 of us in the whole country, and every time you'd fly a balloon, it was like the second coming or something, you know? And so as more and more balloonists got into the sport and to the avocation, and balloons became better and better and better, it became less of a chance to fly them. Now, that's not less of a challenge to fly them. And that's not to say that the people who race those balloons aren't fine pilots, because they are. Racing a modern balloon and flying one, just flying one, is far different. But this smoke balloon is a challenge, and I want to preserve the art of it, and I want to do something that's unique, and so that's why I do it.
Well, Pete, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We thank you very much. We wish you good luck in today's flight, and I'll see you when you're on the ground.
Well, thank you, Dan. I have some work to do, so if you'll excuse me, I've got to get busy here.
Very good.
Thank you.
When I was growing up, I learned a lot by watching my dad.
We're hoping within the next 20 minutes we can have a balloon go up.
Don't throw rocks, kids. Don't.
I didn't realize you would go like that.
You see where that balloon on the top there on the balloon?
I thought it would have jumped on him when it got off the side.
Anybody care to guess how high he is? Way up there, right?
the weeks to come, we will step back in time at Living History Farms, Des Moines, Iowa, and chat with the general storekeepers and the town doctor, and witness the evolution of farm life from pioneer times to the present. We will venture to the Old West, where the series will take you to abandoned gold mines and try our hand at panning for the elusive metal which drove so many to despair. We will visit the most significant military sites along the famous Oregon Trail for a glimpse of the everyday life of the people stationed there and the exploits of pioneers passing by on their way west. We will take you behind the bars of the frontier prisons to discover their role in the taming of the West and spend several enjoyable hours with our old friend Bill Cody for a personal glimpse of his world-famous grandfather, Colonel William F. Buffalo Bill Cody. Other episodes include a look at frontier entertainment featuring a performance at the restored Atlas Theater in Cheyenne, Wyoming, a visit to the Wind River Reservation for a look at the blending of Native American culture and European religion at their Episcopal mission, and a talk with mountain men for an inside view of the Rocky Mountain fur trade and its influence on the exploration of the West. We thank you for allowing us to introduce our series, and we invite you to watch as we bring the living history of Americana on tour into the homes of America. Thanks for watching us, folks. The success of our program depends on you, the home viewer. If you have comments or questions about our program, please write me in care of Americana on Tour, Congerville, Illinois, 61729. We'll see you next week. That's Americana on Tour, Congerville, Illinois, 61729. A traditional part of Midwestern festivals has been folk music. And today we're honored to have an artist who's worked with me personally on many dates here in the Midwest, Marita Brake, folk musician, composer, and songwriter.
It's nice to be here, Dan.
Good to have you. As a prominent Midwestern folk musician, you've written a lot of songs, and we'd like to hear your story personally about how you gain your inspiration in writing.
Well, I'd been in folk music for a long time, Dan, and I had been doing primarily American folk music. And then I started to wonder, being from the Midwest, what was a particular facet of the Midwest that would make our folk music stand out. I used to live in this old mansion just outside of town, and there was a lot of folklore attached to it. And it was huge. It was maybe 3 or 4 stories. And one evening, as the sun was setting, I got up on top of that mansion, and I looked out. I could see as far as the eye could see. And it was one of those evenings that was just, oh, you know, just beautiful. The sunset was just right. And sitting out there, I started to contemplate, you know, what was it like for these people to come here? Where was their history? Now, I saw a few things around me, but where was their specific history, the history of their heart? And so I started looking into what made people from, oh, say 150 years ago tick. And I started to ask older folks, you know, tell me the history. Tell me your history in song. What kind of things did your mother sing to you when you were a child? Or what songs do you remember from your childhood? And we're looking at an oral history here. I didn't want songs that were, you know, from Tin Pan Alley or had been written down, but things that came here from other old world countries or things that came here from other parts of the United States. When I started asking and also looking into research that other people had done, people like Carl Sandburg, who was one of our famous poets from Illinois, but also a great folk researcher, I started to find all kinds of things. Things like just our everyday speech, you know, make hay while the sun shines, came directly from England. And my mother used to tell me, now, young lady, you can just stew in your own juice. And I used to think that was just, you know, something my mom said. But actually, the folk history of it is that it comes from Canterbury, England, from Chaucer's tales. And the wife of Bath says, and in his own grease I shall fry him. And so we have in our everyday speech, even just our daily language usage, a folk influence. So this influence actually shows up in our music. A lot of the folk music in the Midwest came up its rivers, because that was the predominant mode of travel to get into the Midwest. And they deal with everyday things, you know, life and birth and death and love lost.
Marita, what makes folk music different?
Well, I think the thing that makes folk music the most distinctive, Dan, is the fact that it's alive and growing. It's not the kind of history that you find in textbooks, but it's the heart of the people. And I think that's the important thing, and it still goes on today. It's the history that came out of the log cabin and the cornfields and the mountainsides and the ocean. It's just as varied and beautiful as a patchwork quilt.